All right. So good morning, everyone, and thanks again for coming to the Secondary Transition and CTE Fall Network. I guess it's Winter Network. We really should change that. It is winter now, right? Well, I guess winter's not officially till what, next week? Maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for coming. We have some good share outs today around the region and some information to give you. So we will get right into that. First, I would like to welcome everyone and also just point out a few of our SST consultants that were able to join us today. If you don't know me, my name is Lydia Brodigard. I am a special education consultant that deals with secondary transition. Presenting with me today is Sherry Lawrence. She is our CTPD consultant. We are very fortunate to have Sherry. There are only about 8 or 9 of those in the state, and we're lucky enough to have her. We do have to share her with SST 16, but we like to say that 12 is her home. We also have Scott Eldridge with us today. He's helping. He's our tech guy, right? He does school improvement and PBIS and a whole lot of other things. And then I think I saw on the call a few more of our SST consultants, Jill Sheridan, Buddy Tucker, and Susan Larson. If I missed anyone, let me know, Sherry, but I think that's our consultants that we saw. Okay, Scott has dropped a few links in the chat for you. One is to the shared folder, and in that you will find the agenda, you will find a copy of the PowerPoints. Most of the resources today I have linked in the slides so that you wouldn't open it and be overwhelmed with 20 or more different documents to look at. So they'll be linked directly into your slides. So the objectives for today, of course, as always, is to provide some guidance and resources to support secondary transition. We'll review any federal or state updates pertaining to secondary transition and the state systemic improvement plan. We'll explore areas of need for the region and plan for collaboration, networking, and professional learning. Hopefully we have time today to get to that part when we really appreciate the feedback when you guys let us know what what you're doing well, but also what you need help on. So where you are and where you want to be, so that we can make sure we're providing those professional learning opportunities for you or working with you in your district. We're also going to address questions about secondary transition and CTE pathways. The agenda is in your folder, but this is just a quick glance that you know. So we're going to start with some updates from ODE and OEC, and then we're going to have a couple community spotlights today. So I haven't seen him jump on yet, but when he gets on here, we're going to listen to Justin Dinius from MVESC talk to us a little bit, and then Stacy Vaughn from Franklin Local. She's at Philo High School. She's really been using the PAYS Lab, the Rise Up program, and she just submitted her portfolio for Lean 6, Sherry. So she'll add that to her tools to help our students with disabilities. And she's going to talk to you about how actually all students now, they're knocking at her door all kids are wanting in her program. So they're planning for some cool things to happen at Philo next year. We're going to go over a little bit about the Rise Up program if you haven't heard about that. Sherry's going to share some career technical education updates and resources. And like I said before, hopefully we have a little bit of time left for some networking and next steps so that we can plan what we're going to cover in our spring meeting. So to get started, our OEC updates. Some of this you may have if you've been to an SST meeting, or if you have time to look over that secondary transition newsletter we send out monthly. But to some of you, it might be new. And I wanted to make sure that you had these. So for indicator 1 and 2 for special education, we know that is now a phase 1 release date, which means that probably tomorrow, districts will be made aware and SST will be made aware, because we don't get it any earlier, of your compliance indicators. So I just linked this to the email that you would have received, and it kind of was buried in here about indicator 1 and 2. So indicator 1 is get down here. Indicator 1 is graduation. So that's students with disabilities, and the graduation rate, those who have met the federal graduation requirements. So they met all 3 buckets. They made the curriculum requirements, the competency requirements, either through their general assessment of the Ohio State test, or if they're alternately assessed, they met that basic score or higher. Or if they didn't do that, they used an alternate competency, which we've been talking about. And then they also met that bucket 3, which is the demonstration, which means they met 2 seals. We've talked about graduation and length, so I'm not going to go in that too much right now. I just wanted to remind you that those are the ways that students can meet federal graduation requirements. In the past, indicator 1 was a report only indicator. So it came out in May when those phase 2 reports were. We found out in October that those would now be compliance indicators. So if you remember last year when we shared the targets that were set, graduation was one that was just report only, so it didn't have a target, but we know now that last year's target for reporting was 60% or higher of students with disabilities meeting the federal graduation requirement. And then there's increments that increase until 2025, which will then be 70%. So we'll be looking at those. And if your district does not meet, I believe 62%, you will then have an indicator finding, and we'll probably have some required action to do with that. The other indicator that's changed for us is indicator 2, which is dropout. It also has an incremental increase, and for it, we want a percentage of 16% or lower. Our dropout rate in our region has been pretty good, so I'm hoping we won't have a lot of indicator 2 findings, but as I said, I believe those phase 1 releases are set for tomorrow, so we'll have more information then. Another resource that I wanted to share with you is the required notifications chart. So if you had emailed Holly Hall or myself over the past few years, we always would pull out a chart that looked pretty old. I think it was from 2014. The department has updated this goal, and I gave you the direct link because if it changes, it's already changed once since September when it was dropped. This goes through the required notifications for the Guide to Parent Rights, the PRO1, which is our prior written notice, which we get the most questions about, PRO2 and PRO5. So it walks you through each step of the IEP process or the special education process, and it actually has 22 different steps, and it tells you which documents are required to give to the family at that time if those actions take. And then it goes on through, I believe there's 6 pages, and it goes through each of those 22 and gives you a little bit more explanation on each of those. So this is a valuable resource. If you don't have it already, make sure that you print this off, keep it handy, bookmark it, and whatnot. The other one that I know we talked yesterday about when I was in Franklin Local was the accessibility manual. So the Ohio accessibility manual for state tests was just updated. So if you have one that you have on file or have on hand, make sure that it says the 8th edition from September 2022. If it's previous from that, get rid of it because it has changed. And I believe, trying not to make you too dizzy, but if you look at page 4, it outlines what has been changed. So if you don't have time to look at the whole thing, you can just look at these pages or the pages or the appendices that had the most changes, and any changes in that area will be in red text for you. The other resource that was also released, and again, these say September, but we did not get them until I believe November. That's when they landed in our hands and on the website, is the Ohio Test Resource Book. This is from the Office of Assessment. So this is another one. I know we talked about it yesterday because it talks about not just only the Ohio State test. There's some information in there about English learners, which we often get questions about. There's questions about the 3rd grade reading guarantee, KRA, There's just lots of information. So if you know someone who's maybe giving any of these assessments, make sure you pass that along to them as well. You would have gotten an email from me probably last week about the exit survey, and there's been some questions about indicator 14 and how we are addressing that moving forward. So is there still indicator 14 requirements in Ohio? And the answer is yes. Do you still have to be in a cohort for indicator 14? That answer is yes. Do you still need to attend trainings about exit surveys and follow-up surveys? That answer is no. So you don't have to get on and do those with us or with Amy Szymanski or Kent State. The reason is, if you noticed on your local report card this year, there was one item on that report card that was there, and it may have had a percentage tied to it, but there were no stars. There were no ratings tied to that. That's because of the new exit survey guidance and what is required in the state of Ohio. So for exiting student collection, there is a data collection for all students. In the past, if you were a CTE student, you were surveyed. And if you were in a cohort for the Ohio longitudinal survey for the indicator, then you surveyed the students. Now, all graduates will be surveyed. That information most likely went to your EMIS coordinator because there are two collection windows. One is getting ready to close. It has opened in end of October, beginning of November, and it will close January 6th. If you had a student that was a CTE completer, their data collection information is still required at that time. Nothing has changed. What has changed is that students with disabilities may have in the past been surveyed as a CTE completer, and then we waited a year and we surveyed them again. If you have a student that was part of this collection and they are already engaged, so if they are enlisted, enrolled, or employed, and we have that information, then you've met the requirement for the indicator if it's your cohort year. If you haven't, or if your district did not get to all of the students with disabilities before the January 6th date, that's okay too, because the next window will open, and I believe it runs through August. So what does this mean for you? It really is how your district's handling these. If it's only going through EMIS and they're taking care of the follow-up and they're entering it in, then you're probably meeting what you need to do. What I have recommended is that probably early spring, talk to your EMIS coordinator, have them run a report and see how many of the students with disabilities maybe haven't been surveyed yet. That's when you might have to say, you know, can we call them again, or can we try to contact them again, or do you need me to do something? Because we will still need that information. It's just that you're not going to be giving those the surveys that came from Kent State, and you're not going to have to worry about going through the training and doing all of that. Kent State will work with the department and all of that information that's in EMIS to make sure that the information is reported. And I put the link to the exit survey and then the link to the information that I shared with you that actually has the exit 14 information and has the FAQ for the follow-up and the surveys. If there's any questions about that, please either raise your hand, unmute, put it in the chat, or you can send me an email and we can talk about that. I don't know that there's anyone on that was a cohort last year. The only thing is if last year you were a cohort and you did the exit survey, then you would have kept those surveys because you were going to do a follow-up, and we're not going to do that follow-up that way. It's all going to be through this exit survey now. So before we would tell you to keep those in a secure place and you had to keep it until a certain time, and then you did those surveys. We're not going to do that. This will be the only collection that we have. And then the last update, there's been several questions about SDI and IEP Section 7. And if you were at our ETR or IEP start to finish, we shared this. But because there were so many questions, we just went straight to Dr. Sarah Brooks and Chip McCain from the Office of Exceptional Children and asked them. So we put this in a document. Holly Hall and I were there and asked this question, and they presented to us. So on October 25th, this was the guidance that we received. So for specially designed instruction, what they're saying is compliant is if you are reporting those minutes as daily, weekly, or monthly. If you are reporting them as quarterly, semester, or yearly, it is not compliant. I know there had been some discussion about the monthly part, so they went on a little bit. Can you do monthly? There really needs to be an asterisk up there by monthly. So daily and weekly absolutely are fine. If you're writing your minutes as monthly, they did say this is usually what they would see with a related service provider, that it is compliant. However, in parentheses, and when you write that the frequency is monthly, then you would need to put what it typically looks at. So the example they gave is that they would put maybe 120 minutes a month, and typically it's 30 minutes a week. And then there's an and to that. If you do decide to use monthly minutes and you put that in there.
Webinar and she can't see anything.
You also then in the PRO1 will need to put this statement, and it is in quotes because we quoted Chip on this, that in the PRO1 that you would just put that the distribution of monthly minutes were described to the parents and agreed upon during the IEP meeting. So I did want to share this with you. I know that that might not be specific to transition, but this is a question that has came up in the region multiple times, and I wanted to make sure that you did have that guidance. So I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm assuming there's no questions about any of those updates from the department.
Lydia, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, my question would be about the exit survey. Typically for my district, the district reps would come and complete an exit survey.
Yes.
With their students. Okay. If we're not going to do that any longer and we collect the data here and it's reported in EMIS, would the partner schools be able to access that, or are they going to have to collaborate with us in some format to get that information?
So I think that would be if the district EMIS director has view access of your EMIS, then they would be able to find that since they're the one that's reporting back, but we may have to go to EMIS and see how they collaborate first.
Okay.
Because if your EMIS coordinator is the one that has been told that they have to do the exits, we still know that that will count for the district, for their home district. So I think we'll have to check with EMIS on that first. Okay. But yeah, they wouldn't be surveyed twice. So if you guys are surveying them, then the district would not survey them.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I don't.
EMIS,
okay. I never have those answers.
We were talking about it just the other day, and I said, how are they going to know? Basically, was my question.
Sure. And you know what, Cheryl, I have a meeting this afternoon with Amy Szymanski. So I wrote this down, and I will, if I get it, I will forward you a response so I can see what we have. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, Lydia, it's important for our career centers to know that their survey collection time is earlier than the year-end collection time. And so if we have any students with disabilities that are not engaged yet, we have to make sure we give them a year, and we may have to go back and contact them a second time to ensure that we have collected the correct information for them.
Yes. Yep. Because if they're not engaged, if they're being surveyed because you did it early, your district just did it early, or they were a CTE person, you did it early, but they're not engaged, that's when I said we might have to run that report or look back at the information for our students with disabilities in the spring, and we might need to make that second or third call, right? So, yeah, good point. Thank you, Sherry.
Lydia, I have a question about that January 6th date. So what specifically has to be done by that January 6th date?
The students who are CTE students, though, that's the deadline for them.
So it is, because I got a list of I feel like it was all of our senior students that I was to contact and get a response by January 6th.
So anyone can be surveyed. The ones that are required to be in by January 6th are those that were in a CTE program. And when we look at the FAQ, I believe that it even put in here, I'm just pulling it up so we can look at it together, was that if they were a CTE student and a student with disability, we would want to make the January 6th date. But if they weren't engaged yet, that's when we still had, because we want to wait as close to a year as possible.
Okay.
So it may be just going back and seeing if they were in a, if they were a career center, they were in a CTE program, if they were a completer or something, that's why they would have the January 6th deadline.
Yeah. I just was in panic mode because I had like 20 some kids to reach out, and I had that, January 6th date. So I was a little worried about getting that done.
Yeah, that's only for the CTE kiddos. It may just be for EMIS. They may have, they may see that first deadline and think we have to get them all in. We just know for our students with disabilities, we want to give them as close to as a year as possible. So it's okay that they're in the second collection.
Hey, I'm not sure. Am I heard? This is Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Hi. Hey, to follow up her question, our EMIS coordinator told us for last year's graduates, all students, that January 6th deadline. So I think that is a thing for regular ed to have last year's graduates surveyed by the January 6th deadline.
Including students with disabilities.
Yes, but yes, all the whole senior class, last year's graduates. Yes.
Sherry, could you pull up the email from Amy that I just sent out so that we can pull that up? I think that this is where the breakdown is between EMIS and like special ed students, because that's why there is two collections. The collection date for January 6th, all students can be surveyed, but must be surveyed is the CTE students. For our special education students, we really don't want to do that until later. That's why there are two collection dates, and the second one runs into August. And Sean, for your question, for the material collected, do we destroy that then, or should we hang on to it in case there's another change? You do not need to keep it. We got that information. Sherry and I were in a meeting last Thursday. You're not going to do the follow-ups. And if you had submitted it, then it is in for last year. And you should be getting an email from the department just saying, thank you for doing those exits, and there won't be follow-ups. And then everyone will have an exit this year. So you won't need it. If just because you're worried you want to keep it for a year, you can, but you don't have to. Did you find that email, Sherry?
I did. Do you want me to share my screen, or want me to do?
Go ahead.
Let me bring it over here. Oh, I don't have that ability, it says.
I'll make you co-host and then you can do it.
Okay, my little button is green, like I have the ability, but it's not letting me.
Well, it's not. Lydia, you're going to have to make her co-host. You're muted.
Sorry, still muted. All right. So this is the email that came to us from the department, and then we had Cheryl send it out to all of you. And this has the information. Shoot, I thought it had the date in it. Well, that didn't help. Let me stop sharing again.
She sent the email on December 2nd.
Yeah, I know I had I had an email that she had put the dates in, so I'm just trying to pull the date up.
While she's doing that, if you have more than one person that is a part of the call, like you're sitting in the same room, could you put all the names in the chat for me, please?
All right, I think I finally found it. Hang on one second. Okay, so this was the special note that came out. It says the data collection window for collecting data for students with disabilities who are also career technical education concentrators is open until January 6th. The career technical centers will follow the typical post-program placement data collection protocol to gather the data they need to meet the Perkins V requirements. These follow-up data must be collected for students 6 months after graduation. The data collection window for all other students, including the students with disabilities, is open until August 4th. Indicator 14 data should be collected as close as possible to 1 year after the student exited high school. So we will have a bit more time for those students. Does that clear up anything?
Could you share that with us? Email that.
I can.
Thank you.
I will put this in the chat, and then I will find the, I'll just save it and put it back in the shared folder too, okay? You don't really want all my emails, so hang on.
Page 3 and 4 of that FAQ that is attached has the dates that Lydia was talking about also.
Okay, and it's not letting me put it in the chat, so we'll just go to page 3 and 4. Look away while I scroll down.
Lydia, I'm going to download it and put it in the participant folder also.
Thank you. Which page did you say it was on?
I believe it starts on page 3, where it talks about the August 4th and January 6th.
Okay. Yep, right here. The same thing it said about the dates for this is probably exactly where it comes. So it says, when will districts collect data on students with disabilities? So that what I just shared with you is right here on that page, but we'll make sure that you guys put it directly. Sherry will put it directly in the folder for you. All right. If there's more questions about that or you're still unclear, please make sure you shoot me an email or give me a phone call after the network and we can follow up on that. But I promise you there are 2 collection windows and the only ones that are required. Now your EMIS coordinator might think, hey, I want to get this done. And the first collection is January 6th. So let's get everyone done. And that's up to them. Just know for our students with that's not a requirement. That's why it says right there that we have until August to do that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do our checkpoint for taxonomy. So remember that the taxonomy for transition programming has 5 areas: family involvement, program structure, interagency collaboration, student development, and student-focused planning. And we've done a lot of work in many of these areas, but today we're going to focus in on student development. So we're going to look a little closer at how we're providing life skills instruction, career and vocational, curricular, structured work experience, how we were doing the assessments, and how we were supporting these services. So hopefully when we're finished with today, you're going to have a little more tools and ideas in your toolbox for student development. If you are looking at the transition newsletters that Sherry and I send out, you would have seen this picture before. So this is from Career Connections, and this is the framework for how we should be addressing careers with all of our students. And I thought that this was important to share again, just because oftentimes when I'm reviewing IEPs for secondary transition, I'm seeing a lot of awareness being put in 9th and 10th grade, and some exploration maybe in 10th and 11th, and then the career planning when we're trying to make sure that they are engaged, enrolled, enlisted, or employed. We're not seeing that until 11th or sometimes 12th grade. So when you go to this, and I did link this, and it goes to the full document on the ODE's page, it talks about how career awareness starts, and that's basically for kindergarten through 5. I will venture to say preschool through 5. We have some districts who have embedded some career awareness activities within their literacy, within their STEM activities. And then that exploration is for our middle school students. So in 6 and 8, that we're looking to explore those career interests that are embedded through activities and different courses and different opportunities that the districts have. And then our career planning really focuses in on the high school, which are in grades 9 through 12. And when you click on this, that same framework will come up, and then it gives you some ideas of how you could do career awareness and how you could do career exploration and how you could do some of the planning in the high school. And you'll notice that a lot of those competencies and our alternatives are listed under the career planning. We have the College Credit Plus. We go back through, we have our career tech students, we have pathways, we have industry recognized credentials, work-based learning, pre-apprenticeships, which we talked a lot about in our fall meeting. And those are what we should be working on and planning for our high school students. And hopefully some of the share outs today will give you some ideas on how to do that. Scott, has Justin joined us yet?
Yes, he's here.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I know that we have some of our other partners with. I know I saw Amber for Jefferson County ESC, and if there's anyone on from ECO or Ohio Valley, please, you will have time to give updates. But we did ask Justin Denius from MV-ESC to come and share. If you were at our combined meeting for special education, he was able to share some of the awesome opportunities that they are working on, and in a collaborative actually with ECO and Ohio Valley. He's got some exciting things going on for all students. And when all means all, that means our special ed kids get to tie into that as well. So I would like to turn it over to Justin.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me? All good? Okay, so just to reiterate some of those things, and actually I was kind of taking notes as I went down through, and so I'll kind of jump around and jump back into some things that you mentioned that I'm working on and listening to and hearing as well. But truly what I'm trying to do as the workforce development and career pathways coordinator here at MV-ESC is just create and foster hope, access, and opportunity for all students. And truly, you know, that's kind of one of my taglines, to say that all means all, and we really do live that mission. Some of the large buckets of work that at MV and some of the collaboratives that you mentioned, I will go through some of that stuff and talk about that today, because truly what we're trying to get to is that all roads lead to a job. And truly, if we can't get our communities can all rally around that and understand that simple tagline, that if that's what we go with, and that's our mission as a school, that we're trying to get these kids to one of the 3 E's, enrolled, enlisted, or employed, and all roads lead to a job, then all of our schools that are in our charge can get behind that work. One thing that we're really working at, and we presented yesterday, we had a counselor collaborative, and I can tell you that one of the things that the counselors were very, they were kind of on the ceiling about was that data collection, and you guys have already been talking about it, so I don't want to go back into that totally. But with that EMIS coordinator, one thing I mentioned in that meeting yesterday with counselors was I put that EMIS coordinator in my high school because she needed to be with Beth Warner or have direct connect, you know what I mean? So having that EMIS coordinator and your guidance counselor there is vital to getting that data collection done. And they were truly stressed about that. So I just kind of wanted to say that just so you have a framework, because we probably had 20 counselors in the room yesterday. But one thing we're trying to do with those counselors is we're trying to give an individual graduation plan for every student. I mentioned at the fall meeting that, you know, I have an IEP student of my own at home, and I'm aware of that process. But what I'm really trying to do for every student is have an individual graduation plan. And truly, that's something I stole from high schools that work back in the day, from going to a retreat or a summit, so to speak, or whatever. And truly, you know, the state has kind of led us into student success planning and using that document. I truly believe that Noble Local has the best student success plan because we were doing it as an individual graduation plan before student success plan became kind of the cool in vogue word in order to use. So if you have questions about student success plan, we gave it to those 20 counselors yesterday. I think it's an important document. And I think that it's very important that we understand that those folks can't possibly run that individual graduation plan for every kid in the building. And we use an extra help period. And we have some of that data collection in terms of maybe community service seal and things like that being tracked through their on target and their on target teacher to help that counselor with what is a large and daunting job. I have passed out to every district in the MVESC the 3 E's, and we want to track that. I want to know at the end of the day what % of our kids are enrolled, enlisted, or employed, and we should total out to 100% of our seniors being one of those 3 E's to have a successful mission. So we have a tracking document that I sent out. I sent it out in a kind of a survey monkey, and we're going to kind of continue to revisit that as the leader of the BAC here at Muskingum Valley. I'm going to continue to look at those 3 E's and put that at the forefront of one of our culminating activities, so to speak. Like, where are we? When we're collecting data, that should be a data point that every school in our region collects those 3 E's. When we talk about employed, I want to take just a minute to talk about, you know, the industry recognized credential is a big deal. You have Rise Up on here for later. I'll touch on that just briefly here in a second. But I am working on, and we are working on through our business advisory plan document to have 48 industry recognized credential points available to students. We're working on different partnerships in order to pull that off, different 12 points, 3 points, 6, so that we can bundle and work with those and get students to a 12-point industry recognized credential, especially for those students that are in the employed bucket. You mentioned Rise Up. We are working currently. I have 29 students right now in the region that are working through Rise Up. If we look at it, those 29 students might have been part of that percentage of dropout. If we don't do something different for them, if we don't differentiate their individual graduation plan and make that relevant to them. So right now I have 29 students in that. So you think about 29 students and start multiplying and doing a little percentage work in your head. If we can pull 29 people off that dropout list and provide them a diploma and a pathway to graduation, then we've been successful. Two of the classes that we're using, so to speak, there are both 6-point industry recognized credentials. That's retail industry fundamentals and customer service and sales. They're both 6s. So that's how we're kind of getting there. I also want to point out that I have 10 more people wanting into that pipeline. So we can end up at 39, 40 students in the pipeline to graduation through industry recognized credential and Rise Up. And I also want to say that it is a fix and a helper, but it may not be the fix for every kid. So if we're truly trying to do an individual graduation plan for a student, I don't want to prescribe. And I tell a funny story, kind of funny to me anyway. I don't know if it's funny to everybody, but when you go to the doctor and you got strep throat, I have strep throat, they give me Robitussin, and I twist my ankle and I go to the other doctor and he gives me Robitussin. That doesn't make any sense. So I need to differentiate that Rise Up or Certiport or whatever the case may be, that 12-point industry recognized credential. I want to work to better differentiate and not just give everybody Robitussin to get them a 12-point industry recognized credential, because there's a lot more things on the list through Rise Up and different programming that we can really take a look at. What does that kid want to do once they leave high school, and prescribe them, so to speak, maybe a different pathway than those two credentials. But for the time being, I am having great success with Rise Up and those two 6-point credentials. I will take a minute to mention one industry recognized credential point to the state for a valid driver's license. We at MV and OV have combined in consortium to work with 16 buildings, 14 districts, 7 Department of Job and Family Services. They're all on board, because all means all, and we are going to work with and provide funding. They are providing funding for students that meet income eligibility guidelines to get their driver's license for free. So when you want that student to go do a job shadow or have an internship opportunity or attend XYZ meeting that they might want to get into, work at Quanex or Vicon or whatever the case may be, we can't bus everybody everywhere. In our region, they have to be able to drive a little bit to have a part-time job and get 3 credits through workforce development. So we are providing driver's education at the school, which is really, really cool. And like I said, 16 schools. We have currently got 8 graduates, so to speak, through the driver's ed program, some of which are being reimbursed to us through Department of Job and Family Services. I can't stress enough how awesome that is, that they are providing that to our kids, and that they see the need. And I can honestly say that Future Forward Ohio and ODE has recognized this program, and we kind of have a video, and I'm sorry that you have to look at me today and then also on the video, because I told my wife, says, you have a face for radio, buddy. I don't know why you're on all this stuff. So but if you want to look up Future Forward Ohio and see the driver's ed program in action, it was awesome for ODE to come to Caldwell and highlight that program there. And it's working. It's one of those things that we're totally building the plane as we fly it. And it's up, it's running. And now we're trying to figure out in all 16 buildings, how do you land the plane? So I got it up. Now we're trying to land it for kids, and truly it's working. That's awesome. I'll throw out another shout out for the Appalachianstem Collaborative. ODE came to the last Appalachianstem Collaborative. The next one is February 2nd. So I can send Lydia a QR code to where folks can log in and hit that and link themselves and come to the meeting. It's going to be a really, really cool meeting. ODE jumped up at the last meeting and kind of looked at Appalachia and put a map of the state on the screen and called us the STEM desert. And I really felt like, wow, that's pretty telling when we are called the STEM desert, when our kids are absolutely hungry. When we are, our kids are just as needy, they're just as capable, they're just, to do all these jobs that are in demand and going to be 21st century type jobs. And some of them we're preparing kids for things that maybe don't even exist yet. And our kids are absolutely as talented. They just need the opportunity and access to do that. So we're working really, really hard through the Appalachian STEM Collaborative, which is OV, East Central Ohio, and myself at MV, working together to do that. And, truly, I've got to be honest, the old Shenandoah team of Chad Miller, Dan Leffingwell, and I are heading that up, and we kind of have fun being able to get back together and do that. So if you have an opportunity to come to the Appalachian STEM Collaborative on February 2nd at Pritchard Laughlin, it's 8 to noon, and we're going to do a partner showcase. And so people are going to have an opportunity to kind of tell you what they can give back to the schools and why they're there and how they can be helpful. So I think that's really going to be cool. I'm also working with multiple districts right now and different buildings on potentially applying for STEM designation so that they don't call us the STEM desert anymore. That's crazy. I do think more folks are doing STEM activities and strategies that engage the mind than are designated, so to speak. But those pockets of greatness, we need to spread that, and we need to toot our own horn, and we need to apply for designation. And even if a school doesn't get designation, that doesn't mean they still get feedback and they still figure out ways to improve it and take the next step. So I'm one that if you want to apply, I want to help you apply. We're not going to guarantee that anybody gets it, but you're going to get good feedback and engage kids differently. So when we talk about, you know, student engagement and things like that, we had like 30% of Ohio that were disengaged and not attending school. You know, and Dan, if he were sitting here, he would say, do you think those kids are all sick, or are they just not engaged properly? So through STEM, we plan on improving attendance rates. And that was something that, as we do Principals Collaborative, attendance has been a big thing. Getting after pandemic, getting everybody back in the brick and mortar and going back to school has been a challenge. So we got to engage kids differently if we want them to come back and connect them to their why, so that they have a reason that they're coming to school. Another one that I just want to throw out that I'm working on is a 5G boot camp for teachers this summer. So if you have teachers that are interested in 5G and all the different occupations that are coming to the region around 5G, because truly as a teacher and an educator, you know, you work in your silo, you go to school, and that's what you do. There's not too many opportunities for us to understand what is coming to the region and what opportunities our students might have in the world of work. So we're partnering with Ashland University to provide a 5G boot camp. And as soon as I have more information on that, we're going to be doing that in the region, and I'll get that out to you so you can apply for 5G boot camp. I think that's pretty cool. I did mention the counselor collaborative we had yesterday, the graduation follow-up and placement. That was truly like cats jumping, and they were on the ceiling about that. And I mentioned that to you. We are in that Survey Monkey I mentioned. We are going to track how many CTE completions and what industry recognized credentials are students earning in all of our schools. So what are we offering and completing in terms of industry recognized credential? I saw Chrissy Miller on the call. I at least saw her name on the call. I see it. Yep, it's right in front of me. And I wanted just to throw out that a program that we developed a few years ago at Noble called the Next Step program. It's employability skills and life skills. Those IEP students have back-to-back periods, and I back that up with lunch as well as our extra help period. So really, when you back that up with 2 periods, lunch and OT, there's a window there of probably pushing 2.5 hours that those kids are open. And Mr. Rich down Shenandoah High School does a really good job.
Justin, I was just going to say that we had Justin in on our fall meeting, and he presented, and actually I had him last year too. So they know that program. We're really excited for that, and we've had Justin share out a couple times.
Good. I won't belabor that, but I just think that in terms of employability, that's something that every school ought to have for our kids. Enough of that. I think what you said at the very end before I jumped on, this is just kind of a throw-in add-on for me, is the shift in exploration to grades 6 through 8. I think when this shift happened, it all kind of happened at the high school. It all happened there. And I was in a real hurry as the old principal at Shenandoah for 10 years to have basically 3 different schools running. I had kind of a CTE portion running, and that's not to slight anything that Mideast does, because they're fantastic, but they can't take all the kids that I have apply for power alignment. It's selective. So then I had kids staying back at Shenandoah saying, I didn't get the program I wanted, but man, I really need CTE. I really need industry recognized credential. So I was trying to run that type program, your typical high school where everybody takes biology, and then also the CCP end of the world, I think is very important as well. So we were trying to run 3 things, and I do think some of that exploration was starting to happen in 9 and 10. But I honestly feel like you're exactly right. We got to get that exploration piece back down into 6 to 8, where kids then come to high school with, they may not know exactly what they want to be and jump in and out of different pathways, but at least you give them, maybe they figure out what they don't want to be, and that's okay too. So we are working diligently to put that exploration at Noble down into the 6 to 8, and that student success plan that I mentioned that Beth would be more than willing to share. She put some deliverables in pre-K 3, 4 through 6, and then, you know, your junior high, of these are the career exploration to die fors that we are going to execute in those grade bands, so that we know those things are happening because the student success plan has it in there. And as we interview our kids, we know that's there. And then the last thing I'm going to address, that's a really cool thing and that I'm passionate about, and my own kid took advantage of it when we went to Gulfport, Mississippi years ago. They had a teacher academy, and they had some CCP classes like Intro to Ed, Intro to Special Ed, Ed Technology, and I ended up with 6 of them at Shenandoah. Well, everybody knows we have a teacher and a sub shortage in the state of Ohio and nationally. So we are working with Muskingum University to completely reshape Teacher Academy and put one in every school throughout the region in Appalachia. I know that's a focus for Chorus, which is the superintendent's organization in the area. And Muskingum has been super good, Dr. Tim Slecker, in revamping what that might look like. So we're really talking about trying to build an apprenticeship for teachers, so that we might be able to access some of those Apprentice Ohio and workforce development dollars for eventual teachers. So if you have a question about Teacher Academy and want to know more about where we're at there, we really want to get the right 30 CCP hours in every high school. My son came out with 37 semester hours and went to Otterbein and became a sophomore instantly. So when you do the right 30, you can cut a year off for kids. What a great savings to our families. And Muskingum is understanding that fact that that's happening, and they're willing to revamp and think about how they deliver their teacher preparatory programming, so that we can get people back out in schools faster and more effectively. So I would like to see every school have a Teach Academy. I can't say that, you know, I had a huge Teacher Academy. We're talking 4 or 5 kids. But if you take 4 or 5 kids times the whole region, we're knocking out a shortage and a real issue, and it's truly workforce development. It's truly needed. So I thought that was something that needed to be mentioned and something for you to be watching for. So those are just some of the things that I fiddle with on a daily basis. If there's questions or anything, I know you threw my email into the chat there. I'm also on Twitter. You can message me there. But we're doing some really cool stuff, and have a lot of great partnerships and folks that are helping. So appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, if anyone has questions for him, you can unmute or put it in the chat, or I did put his email in there. I also put the link to that video. One of the reasons I asked Justin to come is when he says all means all, he does mean all means all. I would venture to say at one point when I asked Justin, how many students with disabilities do you think's in one of your programs? And it wasn't a factor. It didn't matter if they were a student with disability or not. So that wasn't a data point. He told me quickly, because if the student needed it, they got it. It didn't matter. He truly was seeing students, all students as, you know, our special ed students are gen ed students first, and that's how he does it for his program. So thank you, Justin, for sharing. I'll give a little bit of wait time to see if anyone has questions before I turn it over. All right. But thank you, Justin. You're welcome to stay on and listen. Our next share out is actually a regional spotlight again, and it's for Franklin Local. And I see that Stacy Vaughn has joined us. Stacy, do you need to share your screen? You're muted, hon.
There I go. No, I'm good. I don't need to share anything.
Okay. All right. So Stacy has a lot of stuff going on at Philo. And when I was there working with them, and, you know, sometimes I go and I share resources, right, to network. And she said, well, we're doing that. We're doing that. We're doing that. And then we looked a little bit closer, and you know what? Stacey Vaughn is doing that. I know many of your districts are doing that too. So some of this might not be new, but some of you, it might spark something that can tell you, I need it. I need more information. I need to start that with my district. I need to have that. I think the biggest thing for Stacey that caught my attention was a couple months ago, we were talking about offering the Rise Up program. And she said to me, there's so many gen ed kids that want to be here now. We might have to make this a whole class. We might have to offer this as a period for all students, not just students with disabilities. And to me, that spoke, just 1,000 words in just a few words that she said to me. So Stacey, I will turn it over to you so you can talk about all of the good things you're doing at Franklin Local.
All right, well, I'm going to start with the Rise Up since Justin was just talking about that. We started the Rise Up this year. First of all, I should introduce. I have one of my teammates, Sam Garber, here. As I'm going to share, we are doing lots of different things, and I wouldn't be able to do half of them if it wasn't for teammates. So I asked her to join just in case I forget to mention something. She can add it in. We started Rise Up in September. We had a group of students who needed help earning the 6 points or more. So our principal is the one that found Rise Up, and I was hesitant at first, but I'm glad that we've done it. I agree with what Justin said. It's not a medicine for all students, but I think it's worked really well this year. We elected, after some conversations, we have a population of students who are doing it self-paced on the computer by themselves and are being successful. But I was really worried about my special ed population being able to do that. So we elected to be creative with our schedule, and we were able to free up 3 of us, and we have a rotation to where we're teaching the class 4 days a week to the students. And it started off with our special ed students, and then it keeps growing. Gen ed kids are saying, hey, can we come in there? And we're like, absolutely, come on, if your schedule allows it. I've been really surprised by the content. Rise Up, it gives you the PowerPoints and all the videos to go with it, and we elected to get the workbooks. But the conversations we've been able to have with the students, the real life experiences it offers, it's really been great. Our students who typically are the ones that like to go underneath the radar in classes, they're leading conversations, and they're talking about, well, when I was in Walmart, this and this happened. And so it's been really helpful in that sense.
I agree completely.
Would you say?
Yeah.
We plan on continue. We're doing the customer service and retail industrial fundamentals this year. I do believe the plan is to continue it next year and to offer it on the schedule. The long plan is this past summer, I and 2 other teachers attended a Lean 6 training. And long term, we want to swing and include that too. Kara, are you on here? I wasn't sure if she was.
Yes, I'm on here.
Okay. Do you want to share the district's plan for that? I didn't know if it had changed.
Well, you might know a little bit more. You've been through the training. So as a district, the plan is to get more teachers trained and incorporate it. I think we're looking at some of our like technology classes and our history classes. So that way we kind of start it as freshmen, and if they don't finish things their freshman year, we can finish up their sophomore year and move more towards that direction. One of our technology teachers at the high school is really kind of spearheading it for the gen ed population, and then Stacey's going to work with in cooperation with them to include our special education students as well.
It really, what it boils down to with the Lean 6 is they get into a group and they define a problem, they find a problem, and they work through the process of how to solve that problem, how to improve that problem. I don't know if any other schools are seeing this, but I've noticed across the board, student population of grits is so low now. They don't want to work through problems. They just want to give up, or, oh, I don't know, it doesn't matter, and just not do it. So I really like the Lean 6 on that part. Back to the Rise Up though, Sam was just pointing out.
With Rise Up, you see a lot of changes in your students. Those kids that you didn't think were leaders, all of a sudden they're leading the whole group, or they're answering all these questions and you're like, oh, you were listening and you're getting it. And you don't always see that in the classroom. So it's kind of fun to see a different side of the kids as you're going through Rise Up.
We just finished one unit, the customer service. So our students will be taking the test this week and next week. So we'll see how successful they are. The population of gen ed kids who have already taken it, they are all passing with no problem. So I have, based on what we've seen in our class and the practice tests we've done, I have really no doubts that even our SPED students are going to be very successful in mastering this. Something else new we started this year, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around, is we got a PAYS lab. And I know that I've been on meetings with this and we've had other schools present it. We received this late August and school started late August. So we've slowly worked through the setup and getting it. PAYS Lab is a work-based program and it's divided into 5 sections, and our students come in, they're given a job code and they have to locate what part of the lab that's in and get their job task in a job box. Our low-end population do this daily, and the growth that we're seeing in them is just amazing. It's just when you think, oh, they're going to get this task, they're not going to be able to do it, they're doing it. They're developing that grit again. They're working through how to solve problems when it doesn't go right, and they're really enjoying it. Again, I have gen ed students coming and ask me, hey, what is this, and how do I schedule it for next year's class? So I feel like it's been a big success. We have a ways to go with it. There's just a lot to it, but it has really been beneficial. Anything you want to add about that?
I think either all these programs that we've talked about so far is just amazing to see the changes in the kids. So if you're considering any of them, they're all great options because you do see those kids grow so much in participating in the programs.
One of the other things that we started a couple years ago, based on transition needs, we were looking at our lower end population and the long-term goals for them, and where were they going to live and how were they going to maintain life for their own selves. And across the board, we were noticing that they did not have just the basic knowledge of a kitchen or the microwave or just those simple tasks. So that has grown into what we call our electric cafe. So our students prepare a 5-week rotation meal on a menu, and they now are doing all the prep, all the cooking, and they sell it to our staffs on Fridays. It has grown to the point now that they're doing cost and profit gains. And this year at the end of the month, they do inventory of what's left in our kitchen and what we need for the upcoming menu. And then on the first Tuesdays every month, we are taking them to the grocery stores, and they are going into the stores and they are working through the grocery store and where the dairy section is versus the frozen section. They are finding those things. And then we have them use the self-checkouts to where they're gaining those skills of checking the things out and bagging and carrying it to the bus. And that's where I've seen probably one of our biggest are students who do not engage, or students who really, really struggle to make eye contact, to have any type of socialization in school. Those are the students who now are social butterflies on these days. They are really stepped out their zone, and it's carried out again to the gen ed population because they want to share their success. So we have gen ed students who will come in and visit them during the days while we were cooking. They this year did, with the help of Mrs. Harris, we did 2 massive days of noodle day where they made homemade noodles. How many pounds?
88.
We made 88 pounds of homemade noodles with them, and they did it all, and it got to be very overwhelming. And next thing we knew, we turned around and we had so many gen ed students that were in here that were jumping in and helping them, and that was a really cool moment, I think, for us.
Yeah.
That we could step back and the whole process was just happening, but it's just because they're being exposed to it.
They work so well together, and because they're not with each other most of the day, but it was mostly boys that jumped in, which those are usually the kids that want to hang out with us anyways, but they jumped right in. They're like, we want to do noodle day, give us a job. And they jumped right in, and they were working all together, collaborating wonderfully, talking to each other through the new, because they'd never used the rollers before, and they were talking to each other about that. So that was awesome to see them all come together and work.
Yeah. And then the students, again, that goes into their profit margin of what they're earning, and they were able to, as a class, then determine what to do with that profit. And we end up taking them to COSI at no cost to them, which was a really great experience. One of the last things that we're starting this year is our school has what's called an activity period, and we used to have that twice a month, and now we've moved to having it once a week, and it's a 35 minute period for our different clubs and activities to meet. And we've noticed that a lot of our sped ed students don't belong to activities. So we're trying to figure out how to get them to engage and do more things. So we created elected groups, I guess you'd say. So we divided them up into a 4 rotation, and they come to us during the activity period, and we are doing different activities. Right now we're focusing a lot on transition goals, activities to get them to start doing that career planning. It was a little slow in the beginning, but now that the students are catching on, they seem to be coming in with ideas and things they want to look up, things that they want to talk about, guest speakers they want to come in. So we've only been doing that for the last 2 months. So I'm excited to see how that grows and where it leads us to.
The kids seek us out. Is it my week to come? What are we going to do this week? I think they're liking the idea of thinking about something past this building. So many of them feel like they're defined, I guess, by certain statuses, because it's high school and that's how it is. And when we put them in here, they're all in the same playing field, and you can do whatever you want, and we'll support that research that you want to do to get to that goal. That's it.
Yep, so those are the initiatives that we're leading, and we'll just see where they go. We're excited about them.
Yes, I'm excited about it. So if anyone has questions for Stacy and the Philo group, please go ahead and ask them now. And also, I know that Kara and Stacy and the Philo peeps have been allowing some visits to the PAYS lab and to see how this all is running. So thank you guys. Before I had to send everyone who wanted to see a PAYS lab to Switzerland, and I know that was a far trek for some of you. So thank you for opening up and sharing and letting them see it, you know, in real time.
Yes, and they even can get some hot cocoa if they come to visit us. Stacy has a student that is amazing at hot cocoa.
He loves that. Okay,
I think someone had a question for you, Stace. Did someone have a question?
I have a question for Sherry. Okay. Hey, for the Lean 6, we submitted our project last week directly to him, but then we wasn't sure if that's how we were supposed to do it, or should it went to you?
It needs to go to maximum potential, because they will be the ones that award your certificate. So
I just want to make sure we submitted it to the right person.
Yes, but I would love to see them, so you and I can connect, and we'll figure out how I can see those.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Kara, there is a question in the chat that you might be able to answer. So someone has wanted to implement PAYS Lab for 10 years, but how did Franklin Local fund this?
Yeah, I was actually just starting to type that in, but actually I heard about it through you, Lydia, at a transition meeting. I think it was at MVESC, but Stacy was already very aware of it. So I just Googled PAYS Lab and got on their website and sent an email that, hey, we're interested in this. And then Stacy, do you remember the name of the lady, our sales rep that came and did our training? Well, who was it?
Kathy.
Yeah, Kathy.
Just talked to Kathy yesterday. She has all of our regions. So if anyone has questions about PAYS or the replicated reality or waypoints, there's lots of different resources, but Kathy is wonderful to work with, and I can give you guys her contact.
Yeah, she was amazing. I mean, she got right right to me. I think Stacy just put the information in the chat as well. But yeah, she got right back with me. We talked through things that we wanted. I kind of had an idea. I always got with Stacy too, to just say, hey, do you want this piece of it? Do you want that piece of it? Because we actually did, and Stacy can talk a little bit more about this. We got the payment piece, and I don't know what that's called, but the kids actually earn like a pay stub. So they haven't implemented it a lot yet, but after a break, I think she's going to work on it more. So that way they can purchase items or have a store and talk about like daily living, like how much it costs.
Right. And then part of that is like every week they can keep amount of cash that they'll receive in their packet, but then X amount, whatever percentage we decide to set, has to be deposited into an account. So then they will get to do the whole checkbook experience. And then once a month, they have to write a check for a big expense from their account. And that'll be something that we create by prizes or, homework tickets or such things. But we just are going to work on development over Christmas break.
And Kara, did you use a certain fund within the district, or was that just funds that you still had?
Give me just a second. I had, see if I can find it. Our treasurer told me that I had some funding that I had to spend by, I want to say like July 1st of last year. It was some grant that we had, like, I don't know what it was. I'll find it. And as soon as I find it, I'll put it in the chat. But
okay. I
mean, it was a lot of money. And so when we were sitting at that transition meeting at Muskingum Valley, and Stacy said, man, I would love to implement this. I was like, whew, I know how I'm spending my money now. So, yeah, so it wasn't it was just, that's how I got the funding. And I will look and see if I can find that real quick.
Sure. And Foxfire, to answer your question, it depends on what level of the Pays Lab that you purchase. So Pays Lab, when you order that, it comes with everything, right? It comes in freight for you to get. You get a workbench, you get the appliances that go with it. You get over 32 task box. Last time that I got a quote for one, it was $36,000. That's probably gone up.
I was gonna say, I think we had about 40 grand in it.
Right. And you got the waypoint system with that helps track the money and the payment. So that would be extra. I do know that the replicated reality, which is the job exploration that you can do for the students, it's all online. That for like, I think 30 site license, and the training for 1 year is less than $1,000. So if you think I can't do Pays Lab yet, there are other options that you can look at and still access to help your students get that. And I did just get a quote on that last week, so I know that one is accurate. So I put Kathy's information in the chat, and I think Stacy put the talented assessment link in the chat as well. If you get on there, you can look at all of their programs. And then, like I said, if you have a question for Kathy, she is wonderful to answer them. And she doesn't pressure you into buying something. She's just there to share it. She's a believer of transition. I've been able to work with her over the past 14 years, different districts that I've worked with to help get the Pays Lab. So yeah, it will take looking into your funding and seeing where you're going to be spending that, but it is a wonderful program.
I added my email address in there. If any other school would like to come and visit, we have open doors. You're welcome. Just know that we may not be doing it perfect yet, since we're just a few months in, but I would love for more schools to come and see it, because it is such an amazing part of their day and what they're doing.
And when Stacy gets to the point that she runs a report and gets to see all of the great data that you get from the Pays Lab, you will have so much information for your transition planning and your transition portion of your IEP. It will basically write itself for you. You'll be able to see the strengths and the needs and the preferences, because the students rate each activity, whether they liked it or not. And then you rate how well they do. There's just tons of information that comes along with it. Is there any other questions for the Philo group? I don't see any. So thank you so much, guys, for sharing. We have learned a lot in a little amount of time. So I think now we're going to go ahead and skip ahead and take a 5-minute break. So I have 10:15. So fill up your coffee, grab water, run to the restroom, come back at 10:20, and we will finish up with some more information on Rise Up, CTE updates. We still have a lot more to cover. So thanks for hanging with us. I'll see you in 5. All right, it's 10:20, so to be mindful of your time, I'm going to turn it over to Sherry to do a little information on Rise Up and then some CTE stuff. So Sherry, take it away.
Thank you, Lydia. While I am getting my screen sharing set up here, Scott, Cheryl sent you an email with a link to the participant folder. She received a couple messages that the participant folder link wasn't working properly for some people. So she asked that you put the link in the chat so everyone had access to it. Did that make sense? All right, let me see here. Did you find it?
Yes, it's in.
All right, perfect. All right, let me find. I have so many screens open here. Okay. Can everybody see my screen and hear me all right? Perfect. All right, so we have had 2 people who are very knowledgeable about Rise Up share some of their experiences with the Rise Up credential. I do want to mention that SST 12 is not saying this is the credential for you or that you should use this credential. We are simply giving you some information to help support your decisions that you're going to make in regards to assisting your students with those graduation requirements. So the Rise Up Foundation is an industry recognized credential that has multiple levels, and you can see those on your screen. They do have 3 that they are very well known for, that many districts have been able to use successfully with all of their students, not just their general ed students, not just their students with disabilities. And so on this next slide here, what I've taken a little bit of time to do is break down their top 4 credentials in popularity, as well as the number of credential points that each are worth. And then Lydia and I both attended a webinar with their sales representative, and it was very helpful in showing how many hours of training does it approximately take for students to complete the classroom portion of the credential. What is the cost of the student with the exam included? How many questions? What is the format? Multiple choice, extended response? Are there free retakes? How much does it cost for a student to retake? So as you look down through there, you'll see all of that information in one table for you to kind of refer back to when you're looking at the types of programs that you may want to offer for your students. The notes section is just something that I added to this that really highlights some of the areas that each of those individual credentials discuss, or topics that are related. Students do need to be 14 years or older to complete the Rise Up credential. There is a cost for the instructor book of $265 for each course. The materials are at a 6th and 7th grade reading level. Read aloud is provided, extended time is provided for exams. However, you do have to complete their ADA form, and the vendor does a great job of outlining all of that information and helping you figure out what forms need to be completed, and assisting you with any questions that you may have. There is a kind of like a platform home screen that you're able to access to look at students' students' completion of projects, and you can use that as you're actually completing the instruction and project things digitally so that you can work on assignments together or lessons all together. I think Stacy mentioned a workbook that is available to purchase if you choose to do that. And I did want to make sure everyone knew and understood where to go to find information about being reimbursed for credentials for your students. So I'm not going to click on that link right now, but you can go to Ohio Department of Education's website, click on the link, and it tells you exactly what your EMIS person needs to do in order for your students' credentials cost to be reimbursed to your district. It does run a year behind. So for example, you would pay for credentialing for your students this year, submit that information through EMIS, and then you would be reimbursed next year for the credentials that your district paid for this year. One of the ideas that I really liked about Rise Up credentialing is that your instructors can actually sign up to take the class and the credentialing test for free. It doesn't cost your instructor or your teacher any money to take a look at it and see if it's something that might work for the students that you have in mind to use, excuse me, with this credential. So I put the link in there also for the sign up page through the vendor. The contact is Jessica Vieira, and her email information is there for you. And again, as Justin said, this isn't a one credential fits all. We really need to start looking at embedding credentials that our students are interested in, beginning in their freshman year, so that by the time they have reached their junior year of high school, all of our students have credentials in their back pocket that will assist them with skills when they leave our high schools. So just something to keep in mind there. One other resource, Hamilton County ESC's Megan Horstmeyer has given permission for us to share a digital workbook that she created. And I'm pretty sure, there we go. I'm pretty sure this is through a Google Classroom because it is a Google Doc, but as you can see, she has created activities, linked it back to a slideshow presentation that she's created, and it really goes through lesson 1.1 and gives our students that extra practice and extra discussion for each of these credential areas so that they can be as successful as possible. She did not, if you look down through the link, I don't want to make anybody dizzy here. There's a place for you to go to take a quiz and click on the quiz when you're ready to do that. She did not share her quizzes with us, but I thought it was a fabulous assist that she was able to give us this information so you can share this with your teachers. And I know you have some very techie, Google savvy teachers out there that will probably even take this to the next level. But she does work in a self-contained classroom with students with cognitive delays, and she has had a lot of success with Rise Up credentialing using Google Classroom and these extra practice notebooks that she's created. All right. I'm trying to get us to some time for some collaborating here at the end. So we already took our break. A couple career tech updates that I would like to make sure everyone knows about. The CBI and JTC application and CTE 26 applications are going to need to be submitted by mid-March. Now, many of you attended the CBI JTC information session that Chelsea Canterbury and I put together. Gosh, that's probably been about 3 weeks ago now. Time's flying. And Amy Szymanski and Lydia have both shared out some grant opportunities that are available. However, you already have to have the CTE 26 applications approved. So my advice is, if you are interested in creating a CBI program or a JTC program in the future, you really want to sign up and attend one of these workshops and get that application submitted and approved, because that application can sit there. You don't have to use it just because the application is approved. But if you are approved, then the next time funding becomes available, you will already have that CTE 26 application sitting there and be ready to submit a grant proposal for those funds. I will remind you that these are considered career tech pathways. And if you are a partner high school, you do need to work with your career tech planning district superintendent's office and make sure that services aren't being duplicated, and that your career tech superintendent is aware that you are going to be filing these applications, because the superintendent of that career tech planning district does have to approve the applications. And we just want to make sure that there's communication going back and forth, and that you are partnering with your career tech planning district for these career tech pathways. So you can see there January 18th at Washington State Community College, and then January 25th at Belmont College. Our fabulous friends at Ohio Tech Prep will be available. This is their workshop. And if you're able to attend, they will literally sit with you and walk you through the application process to help you with that. Again, those are due at the end of March. So if you are able to go to one of these workshops in January, that's plenty of time to get this process completed before the deadline in March. You don't want to wait until the day or two before, because like I said, you have to complete the application. It goes to Tech Prep, it comes back to you, it goes to your CTPD superintendent. So there's a lot of going back and forth that has to occur. So you want to give yourself plenty of time to get those applications submitted. Are there any questions before I go on about the application process for CTE 26, or why you might want to do that? All right, I'll keep going here. Let's see, career tech education, embedding industry recognized credentials. One of the reasons I shared the Rise Up information is because, as Stacy shared, they are looking at using those credentials not just with students with disabilities, but with all students who are interested in earning those credentials in the future. And I'm available. Tech Prep is available. If you are interested in looking at some of the curriculums being offered in your districts and how you may be able to embed some of those credentials, feel free to reach out to me, and I can share some of the ways that other districts are using credentials in their curriculum. For example, we have the financial literacy credit, half credit, that's going to be required for all students. So some districts are using one semester for that financial literacy credit, and then they're using the second semester to embed leadership for excellence or Lean Six Sigma. There are tons of different ways that you are able to embed those credentials for students. So just reach out to me if you're interested in looking at that. I know some people are using some companies or vendors that are helping them design those, which is perfectly okay, but I am available to assist with that also if you would like to sit down and talk about it. The last really, really important update for career tech, there are workshops called Quality Program Review Workshops, and I have a list of probably, I don't know, 30 schools. So this isn't just our career tech schools. These are the partner high schools that have career tech pathways in them. Quality program review is for to ensure that the programs that you're offering, that you're receiving CTE funding for, meet a minimum program quality. And because of the pandemic, those programs have been in a hold harmless period for 2 years. And so these workshops have been voluntary. This workshop is really, really important if you had a program that was under quality program review previously, because they are using that data and that information to kind of set up the next round of pathways that are going to be put into this quality program review. So if you click on the link here, it will take you to all of the workshops that are offered across the entire state of Ohio. And in my next slide, thought I put it on there. I guess I didn't link it, but you can see under the workshop review, January 5th would be the Southeast region, which is at Washington State Community College. And then in Massillon, Ohio, for our friends that are in the northernmost eastern part of our district, you may want to consider the Massillon date, which is on January 30th. So the links here actually lead to the registration for those workshops. So if you do not know whether or not you have a program that is under review, the career tech superintendent for your planning district received that information. And you could also reach out to me. I do have the names of the school districts that are required to attend the QPR workshops. However, I don't have the exact pathways that would have to come from your superintendent. So finally, this is a really, really cool opportunity. Building Bridges to Careers has been working very, very hard on creating collaborative business partners to offer paid internships. And they're actually their home is in Marietta, Ohio, but they are reaching all the way up through Coshocton County and into Tusk County now. So if you are interested in learning more information about paid internships, including funding transportation for students, and possibly reaching out to more business partners that are in your individual communities, then you may want to contact Building Bridges for Careers. Claire Ramsey's email's down at the bottom of that. And I also linked Building Bridges to Careers website there. Some of these internship programs are just over the summer. Some of them are flexible enough that students are able to attend these internships during the school year. And I was on a work-based learning call yesterday, or a meeting yesterday, a meetup. And one question came up regarding students whose families receive TANF funds and whether or not their work-based learning income will affect their family's eligibility to receive their TANF funds. And so through Job and Family Services, I do have some contact information and some links that you could share with families that might be concerned about that. Because if they are in a work-based learning program or in an Ohio Department of Education recognized internship, those funds do not count against their family's TANF funds. So if that question comes up on an individual basis, I would encourage you to contact your local Job and Family Services, because they do make those determinations on a family by family basis. They won't just give you a blanket statement, but you know, those concerns are real for some of our families right now. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that we are able to offer these programs and work-based learning experiences to our students without that affecting their family's income. All right, Lydia, that was fast, but I did it.
All right. Anyone have questions for Sherry? I did update the slides that are in the participant folder because just like any good consultant, we got more information after they had to be submitted. So I've updated those and put them back in that shared folder.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes.
The slide that you had with all the rise up, yes, thank you. I didn't see that in the files at this time, but there's it looks like the retail industry one is not proctored
but the customer service and sales, which is more general, that's something we had already talked about incorporating. Can you tell me about what that proctoring consists of?
I wanted to make sure I wasn't on mute before I started talking again. My understanding is that the proctoring comes from the classroom teacher. I don't think there's a camera or anything like that where the student has to sit down you know, like when you go and take like your state board exams or something like that. But that's something that we could reach out to the vendor to get more information on.
I think it's part of the teacher training, and I'm not sure if Kara knows or not, because it looks like Stacy had to jump off to get back to class, but there is a teacher training that goes along with the Rise Up program, so that you're able to, you know, present that information. I believe that's part of your training as a teacher or an instructor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm still on here, Lydia. I don't know. I don't think it was a lengthy training because I don't remember them saying a whole lot about it. I just know that Stacy decided that she wanted the hard copies of the books to do the training instead of doing the online with her, with our students with special needs. Our gen ed kids are doing the online portion of all of this.
Okay, so what you're saying is we would need to get the $265 course instructor book and go through that free class and test, and then we'd be a proctor.
Yeah.
That sound right?
Yep.
And yes. Curry, we shared the link, but I can also share it back to you. There's an informational webinar they offer twice a month that you can sign up free. And they didn't like call us out on it. So Sherry and I literally just listened so that we could get information. And then they set you up with that so you can ask the questions to get more specifics. But it was very informative. And I think it was only about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and you know, you work through this at your own pace, so that's why it's teacher because they're not, you know, they're not going to give you a deadline of when this has to be done. So
yeah, that was another concern, but it looks like you really broke that down to how many hours. You know, like do we incorporate it one period a day for a whole semester, you know, into a curriculum,
right,
and get it done that way? Because some of them that I've experienced in the past were just all over the place as far as how much time they took. So that's really helpful.
And I think a lot of it has to do with how well your teachers are prepared to facilitate it, right? Because, you know, the first time we do something as a new curriculum, it's going, you know, we're going to have some bumps in the road. But my understanding from attending their webinar was that they are right there and will get back to you same day most of the time if you have a question or difficulty accessing something in the program. So, and I know right now, we're really trying to fill those gaps for our high school seniors at this time. But, you know, I'm really encouraging districts to take a look at, know your students, right? They're all supposed to have a graduation plan. If you have students that are interested in warehouse and inventory logistics, that is a pretty comprehensive industry recognized credential that will give them a lot of to assist them with scheduling for the trucking industry. And we all know how important the trucking industry is right now. So, you know, I heard something yesterday when I was presenting at another ESC, and the comment was, we have to give the students a want in order for them to want to complete something now. And so if they're not interested in warehouse and logistics, they're not going to want to complete this program, right? So we have to identify, like Justin said, of those 40 or 50 credentials that are out there, what do our students want? And what can we offer with the capacity and the resources that we have?
All right. Thank you. Curry, if you're talking, you're muted, hon.
I stopped sharing, Lydia, so it can go back.
Okay. I didn't care who shared. I can pull it back up. All right. I always plan for so much and then look at the time. So now for our interagency collaboration, I saw Autumn was on earlier, but are any of our opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities on and have anything to share?
Hi, everybody. I think it's just me today.
Okay.
Just wanted to say hi. And, as always, we're working hard on the OOD side of things. If you have students, it's one of those things where it's always crazy time of year, I think, but the sooner you can get a student connected, it's always the better. So if you have students that you're thinking and planning for, you want them to participate in summer services, now is definitely a good time to be getting all that done. And then if you have graduating seniors, especially as we're talking about, those exits and wanting them to be in one of those 3 E's, we definitely see over and over again that the data supports earlier connection leads to better results. So if you have students in mind, we're here. If you have questions, never hesitate to reach out to me or any of our other counselors. And we're just grateful for all the work that's being done around the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Autumn. If anyone has questions for Autumn, go ahead and put them in the chat or unmute. All right. Oh, there was something in the chat, Autumn. Oh, just her email. Thank you, Autumn. Okay, so then also we have our Board of Developmental Disabilities. So as you guys know, we cover lots of districts, and some districts don't have their own board, and they share. But if any of our Board of Disabilities is on and has anything to share, now is the time. I emailed them to see if we had some share outs I could put in the resource, and I didn't hear back, but just in case anyone's on. Don't see anyone. All right. Okay. So networking and next steps. Looks like I think we have enough time, but maybe we should only do like 10 minutes, Scott. He's going to put us in some breakout rooms. I do want to be mindful of your time. I really, really, really would like you to stay and do this networking. I am going to go ahead and put the evaluation for today in the chat, and in about 5 minutes, I'll send out the certificate so that you guys can have that. But when we're thinking about our next steps, I really, in your groups, would like to think about what's one thing today that you think you would like maybe more information on, or if there's something that you're already doing and you want to say, hey, this might help someone else in the region. Make sure that we get to know. We are planning our spring network, and it's supposed to be a blended in person. If you can come and have a work group afterwards, we are open for ideas. Sherry and I have ideas, but we want it to be meaningful for you all. So if there's any professional learning or something else we need to hit on, please talk about this in your group. And then you can put it in the chat or send it back to me. So Scott, if you can send us for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back for the wrap up.
All right.
Thank you. Friend, and we'll get this wrapped up.
All right. We are recording.
All right. I hope everyone had a good networking, at least get some brainstorming out. I did go ahead and I dropped the link for the survey and your certificate. I know some of you might need to run, and we are down to 2 minutes left. So basically for that networking time, I just wanted you guys to look and see what's something maybe you wanted to know more about. If there's something you want to share out or something we need to plan for, you can unmute, you can tell me a bloom, a thorn, a bud, or you can email it to me, doesn't matter. But I really, really do use your feedback as we plan moving forward. There were a couple things I did want to share while you're thinking about that and you're getting that response ready. Is that we did listen to you about the student-led transition programming PD that I have offered. I've offered it 5 times now, but there still were some questions about if we could offer it more. So we did receive some funds to get the resources for the student-led program. And we're going to be presenting that in January. I believe that one is at New Philly at ECO ESC, and then a date in March, which is at Jefferson County ESC. It should be coming on our calendar soon. I am going to drop, hopefully, and folder, our PL catalog for the winter. It's officially out. You probably got the email from Cheryl, but all of those will be on our calendar so you can register. So those 2 dates will be in person unless we have inclement weather, and I will present virtually and then make sure that we get all the resources to you on that. So that being said, would anyone like to share out any thoughts on today, ideas? No, I've overwhelmed you. It's been 2 hours. That's okay too.
Thanks for all the resources. Those are very
You
helpful.
are welcome, Carmen. And someone had asked about what funds Philo used, and Kara did text me. She looked up and she had IDEA B money that was left over, and it was approved to be used for the Pays Lab purchase.
Okay.
In the past, the state has had Innovative Strategies grant, which could also be used. Unfortunately, this year they did not use that competitive grant just because we are in the middle of the state systemic improvement plan and graduation updates, which many of you are probably getting sick of me because I'm your regional graduation person and talking about ESSEP. But hopefully that will be back next year as well, so we can find some funding sources for you.
I shared also, we received at Cambridge IDEA ARP ESSER funds.
Okay.
I thought that might be where Kara got hers from. So there's quite a bit of money there too that I'm.
Yeah, I feel like AARP, like, I don't know, like there was an ARP or something. I'm going to go find out from my treasurer exactly where my funds came from, because I just remember he said, use these codes. You have all of this money that needs spent.
I bet it's
Okay.
ARP. I bet it's ARP.
ARP, yeah, AARP, whatever.
It has to be spent by, they gave it to us a while ago, and has to be spent the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah, so I will go double check that and then text it to Lydia, and Carmen, I can probably text it to you too, but I'll text it to Lydia and she can send it out to everyone.
Yeah, I can email it out. Also, just while we were sitting here talking, ironically enough, Sherry and I received an email from Amy Szymanski about the Indicator 14 exit student data that we were talking about, and there should be they're awaiting final approval for that letter to go out to anyone who was in a cohort about what you need to do with those leftover surveys that you were collecting for spring. And again, it just says there's 2 collection dates, and our students with disabilities, we want to be as close to a year as possible. So you really are not due in January. I promise you. That's why there's 2 collection dates. If you don't get them done, if they're a CTE person, good. But if you don't get them done, you have until August to get the students with disabilities in. So hopefully everyone had time to get that survey done. You've got your certificate link in the chat as well. Again, you can always find us on social media. We do need to add another graphic here. We are on LinkedIn now. So I forgot to put that up. So look for us on LinkedIn. Cheryl shares some great things on there too. I put our contact information. You guys probably already have it, but just remember our emails did change. It's at sstregion12.org. And anyone else have anything for the good of the order?
Lydia, in our breakout session, there were a couple questions about the types of questions to ask on the exit survey. So I went to ODE's website, I found their example template, and I dropped that into the participant folder.
Perfect. And all of that information about those surveys and the outline of what it needs to be would have been sent to your district EMIS coordinator. That was the flow of this, because that's who's inputting it all in, and that's how they are filtering out through the department and through Kent State. So we will provide you with anything. I know I've sent the email out that you guys requested. I sent it to a couple people who had messaged me. I will also make sure that it gets in the resource folder. But if you have any other questions, again, let me know. If anyone has anything to share out, now's your time, or I'll let you go. I know we're over. All right. I appreciate all of you, and thank you for joining us. Have a very Merry Christmas, and I'm sure I'll see some of you soon.
Thanks, ladies. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jill.